Meanwhile, the Senate Gang of 8 is still intact. Senator Marco Rubio is leading the charge as the full Senate plans to vote next week on an immigration bill. What will it take for the bill to pass? We asked Senator Rubio. Immigration. Where to stand on your immigration bill?
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. To people, in order to get the votes to pass it out of the Senate, not to mention the House, in essence, in order not to pass a bill, but to pass a law, people have to know that this is never going to happen again. They're prepared to deal with 11 million people that are in this country illegally. People understand that the status quo we have right now is unacceptable. It's de facto amnesty. They're prepared to deal with this, but only if we take steps that ensure that this never ever happens again in the future. And so I think that's what the next few weeks are going to be about, is coming up with changes to this bill that ensure that our border is secure, that E-Verify is working, that we're tracking the entry and exit of visitors to our country, so that we can ensure that when we deal with this issue now, it'll be the last time we deal with it.
But we have E-Verify, we have border security, we have all these things, and it hasn't worked to this day to sealing the border. What do you intend to do differently to convince the American people and also other legislatures that this time, yes, it will work?
Well, a couple things. We now have resources at our disposal that didn't exist 25 years ago, or maybe even 10. For example, drone technology, the ability to fly overhead and spot people in the night that are crossing and then be able to follow them, quite frankly,
and
until
do what?
you apprehend them.
What, follow them to
Well, you can apprehend people. Yeah, well, you can, throughout the desert. You can see them even at night. I mean, we know that technology exists. Ground sensors. We know that double-layer fencing works, and it needs to be built. You know, there was a bill passed in 2007 or 2006 that required 700 miles of double fencing, and it was never built. Actually, the Congress came back the next year and defunded a significant portion of it. Staffing levels at the Border Patrol. But the other part of it is E-Verify. The magnet that draws people here illegally is labor, is jobs that are available, and a true E-Verify system that every employer is required to comply with. One that's cost-effective, that you can do in a handful of minutes, but allows you to positively identify whether the person you're hiring is legally here or not. And the third is just tracking visitors. We track people when they come in, but we don't track when they leave. 40% of our illegal immigrants entered the country legally and just overstayed. They've overstayed their visas. And we don't know who they are because we don't track people when they leave.
How do we track them? I mean, our borders, whether it's JFK or the Miami International Airport, or it's not just the border between U.S. and Mexico, but we can major airports where people are coming in on student visas, vacation visas, and then they just stay. How do you intend to track them?
They all have to have a passport when they come in.
When they come in, but how do you track them?
You have to swipe it back out. I mean, there's an exit and an entry.
But let's say you come in today and you decide you've got a 6-month visa, and you decide to leave 10 years from now. What are we going to do? Well,
the problem is once you enter the country, you're registered as clocking in, basically. And if in 6 months or 6 days or however long your visa is, you haven't left, the system will say, John Doe came in.
So we're going to go hunt them down then?
Well, you'll know who. Well, here's the bottom line. Number one, they won't be able to find a job because you have an E-Verify system that knows that they're here illegally. Number two, they'll be in that database, so if in fact they interact with law enforcement or anybody else, it'll immediately pop up that this individual is in the country illegally.
So you got to get picked up for drunk driving or speeding or lifting something at the 7-Eleven or something in order to get picked. Otherwise, you can stay under the radar.
Well, but you won't be able to work. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're going to stay here for longer than 6 months, you have to be able to sustain yourself if you're going to overstay a tourist visa, and that's why the E-Verify component is so important.
What if it's like a 7-Eleven where you only have like 4 or 5 employees?
You're going to have to do E-Verify, even if you only have one employee.
Does that cost the employer?
Well, it's an internet-based system. I mean, you quite frankly go online. You can go onto the system. The software is cost-effective. The person will have to produce an ID, and you'll type their name into the program, and you can see if it's them. There'll be a photo tool that shows you if it's them, and then you'll be able to verify. You print that out, you put it in the file, and you've hired them because you know they're here illegally. If the person doesn't check out as legally here, they can't work for you. And if you hire them, we're doubling the penalties for people that violate that law, for businesses that violate the law.
And we have the software for E-Verify, internet-based E-Verify, and it works. It's just a matter of using it.
Well, it has to be improved because the problem with it now is I can show up somewhere with someone else's Social Security card, and I can say, I'm John Doe. And you don't know because it's just a name. You run it through, John Doe comes up as legal even though it's not me, and you hire me. Now there'll be a photo tool associated with it. So there'll be a picture of you online with regards to who you are. And where it's especially going to be effective are people that are in this country in a non-immigrant status or recent arrivals that entry program are going to have that photo of themselves taken. They're going to be able to match that up, and they're going to be able to see not just a card, but a picture, and they'll know that that's the person or not.
And today, Senator Rubio saying he does not think the Senate immigration bill will get enough votes to pass the House and will probably also struggle in the Senate. And to see our full interview with Senator Rubio, go to GretaWire.com.